Welcome to the Sonic Collective, where music's past meets its future. Join hosts Alan, Scott, and Darren Scott as we explore the albums, artists, and movements that shaped the music we love today. From legendary records and influential musicians to rising artists creating tomorrow's soundtrack, we're passionate about helping music fans discover what matters. While streaming algorithms push what they're paid to promote, we dig deeper, connecting you with the classics you need to revisit and the new artists you need to hear. Rediscover the music that shaped the past. Discover the artists shaping the future. This is the Sonic Collective. Welcome back to our special Sled Island interview series, where we're shining a spotlight on the artists, bands, and creative voices that make this festival one of Canada's most exciting celebrations of independent music. Throughout this series, we're talking with musicians performing at Sled Island. We want to learn about their creative journeys, their connection to Calgary's music community, and the role festivals like Sled Island play in helping artists grow, connect, and find new audiences. Today's guest is Evan Resnik of Sunglaciers, one of Calgary's most adventurous and critically acclaimed bands. Since forming in 2017, Sunglaciers have built a reputation for creating music that sits somewhere between post-punk, psychedelia, new wave, garage rock, and experimental pop, often all within the same song. Their sound is challenging and accessible at the same time, blending infectious melodies with bold sonic exploration and a willingness to push beyond conventional genre boundaries. Over the years, Sunglaciers have earned praise from critics across Canada and abroad, toured extensively through Canada, the United States, and the United Kingdom, and shared stages with artists including Preoccupations, Chad VanGaalen, No Age, and Explosions in the Sky. Their latest album, Spiritual Content, continues their evolution while reinforcing why they've become one of the most compelling alternative bands to emerge from Calgary's vibrant music scene. In this conversation, we talk about the band's origins, their creative process, their experiences with Sled Island, and what it means to create ambitious music in a city that continues to punch above its weight on the international stage. I'm Darren Scott, and this is the Sonic Collective. Here's my conversation with Evan Resnik of the Sunglaciers. I would say you're a beloved staple of the Calgary scene, have been around for more than a decade. But can you just summarize what's the origin story of Sunglaciers?
Yeah, well, first off, that's really nice of you to say and really nice to hear. And then, I guess it has been just about a decade. Yeah, I think so. I think there was an article that came out that said over a decade. I took a bit of issue with that because it made me feel old for a sec. But it's pretty much bang on. So, yeah, origin stories. I started this band with a roommate at the time. This is back in like 2014, 15, just kind of jamming in the basement, working on weird time signatures. We had a little 3-piece together, and we were doing some shows in town. These were my first shows fronting a band, so it was a big moment for me. And actually, that first year, 2016, we got accepted into Sled Island because Sled is really notoriously great for giving brand new bands a chance, on a stage in front of a bunch of people. So that was really cool. However, that trio was kind of not the highest functioning, and it sort of fell away kind of as I was going into the studio with Chris Dadge to finally put something, into permanent record. I have a long history of talking a lot and not getting a ton done. So it was really important to me to actually get a few songs recorded to tape, get it out there, and then sort of move on with my life. Maybe, just dissolve the Sunglaciers name in the band and move onward. But around that time, Matt he had just left a couple of bands and he was sort of a free agent. And I was recording with Mr. Dadge, and he and a couple other friends at the same time all recommended Mathieu. So we ended up meeting up and having one really bad jam, and then meeting up the next day and having a really good little session. And it's kind of been just forward momentum from there. So we got his drumming onto that first EP, which was huge. And we've just kind of been pressing forward ever since.
Yeah, and talking about history. You know, you're from Calgary here, and that's a big angle of what we're talking about. What high school did you go to?
I went to Central Memorial. Now, this is like before It was an art school before it was a sports school. It was just
Mm-hmm.
I think it was just a school back then.
Yeah, they have the PVA. Funny enough, my son graduated from Central Memorial last night. So there you go, yeah, full circle. But yeah.
Incredible.
So what were some of your influences? And I was reading some other articles, and I even like how you were a big fan of Jay Dilla. But like, what influenced your musical style and taste growing up?
Growing up, I think it was my older cousin Sean. Shout out to him in White Rock. He got me on to Offspring, Metallica, Green Jelly, Ozzy Osbourne, all these sort of harder acts, and really started opening kind of my young mind to, I think, mostly to grunge, like Nirvana, and even Bush was a big one for me back in the day. So it started there, and I was always a rock and roll kid. I had my Zeppelin phase, I had my Pink Floyd phase, and it wasn't really until probably the 2010s where I really started getting into post punk properly, and then having been influenced more, by Matt and some of my cooler friends, in the time since then, and getting into the likes of Wire and Velvet Underground and Bowie and all these sorts of more eclectic artists.
Yeah, great influences there. So you start this band, you get out there. You mentioned you played Sled in 2016 early on, but what was your first kind of connections to the Calgary music scene? I guess besides Sled, where were you playing, and what clubs and music were you listening to that was local?
It was actually before I was playing at all. I dealt with and still deal with some pretty decent stage fright, but it was, back in my younger days, it kept me off of stages and kept me away from performing in front of people. And it was actually, I was living on a farm in the south of France, like up in the mountains in the Pyrenees, and someone who I was hanging out with over there introduced me to Chad VanGaalen, who I'd never heard of. And it was only after about a month of listening to him and that Soft Airplane record that I learned he was from the same town as me. And so that was kind of the first real, like, tangible connection where I thought, oh, this is a really cool sound, coming from where I come from. And I think ever since then, it's just been more and more apparent to me how much cool music comes out of this part of the world.
Yeah, Chad's a great local artist. And I mean, Calgary and Alberta seems to get sometimes, especially from those outside. Yes, we have the Calgary Stampede. Yes, there's a big country folk, Western type influence here, but people are really missing out that there's a very vibrant alternative indie, even hip hop like music scene. And there's a lot here. How would you describe the local music scene here in Calgary?
Yeah, it's a big mishmash. There is really some really interesting music across all genres. There's quite a lot of that kind of outlaw country, that sort of alcohol-soaked, laid-back, kind of dirtier vibe for country. Like you said, some really, really impressive hip-hop acts are coming around. And I don't know, just every time you go out to a show around here, there's a lot of sort of mixed bills where you get 3 or 4 different bands that all kind of sound different. There's a lot of great sort of like newer hardcore bands, among some of the younger scenes here as well. It's just really cool. It's kind of like it's a big melting pot of different sounds, and of course you have the post women sort of Calgary sound as well, which we actually try to kind of distance ourselves from a little bit, but it still obviously comes through.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So focusing a little more on Sled Island right now, you mentioned you played there early on in 2016. How did you get connected with Sled?
It was actually a couple of years before that. It was my first year working at a bar in Calgary, and I think I was running food or bussing tables, and there was an afternoon sled show, and the first act I saw was an artist named Jenna Lauren from East Coast of Canada.
Mm-hmm.
I just found her stuff really, really cool, and then that kind of opened my eyes to what was going on, in Calgary that week, and I either bought a pass or maybe I snuck into some venues or something, but I just realized how broad and how interesting, the curation of this festival really was.
What other acts have you discovered or become friends with or connected with during the Sled festivals?
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole bunch. One that really influenced us creatively at the time was seeing Mount Kimby, who played at, I think it was Commonwealth in 2017. So that was Matt's, first year, as part of this project. And we were really, just making music a lot and hanging out every day and biking around and going to all these sled shows and just seeing Mount Kimby on the stage and how they had these different stations set up around the stage. and they would rotate, in this sort of circular pattern, kind of in between songs or sometimes in the middle of a song. We just thought that was really cool and brought a whole new dynamic of like a more of a visual component to the audio that we were hearing. So I think since then we really prioritized what our stages look like and what we look like on stage, and then just in our efforts to captivate audiences a bit more. So that was really cool. And yeah, the Canadian music scene is so small, the North American scene, honestly, that like we've seen a lot of bands come through here and play at Sled, and then we've gone on tour and ended up playing, with these bands, supporting us in their home cities, and just really making fast friends with really cool artists all around North America.
Sled Island, what is the difference for you for playing a Sled Island crowd versus one of your normal shows?
Just the variety of people and their backgrounds and what they're in that room to see. If it's a regular local gig, maybe we're opening for someone out of town, or we're supporting an out of town band or a couple of locals. It's a bit more of a focused crowd, and it's a bit more of a friends centric sort of thing. Whereas a Sled show, you've got all these people, this heightened excitement in general. More of the music fans that live in and around our city, they're all in there. So there really is a heightened vibe, and it does feel special. And we've had the privilege of opening for some bigger acts at Sled, and I mean, you can just tell there's just a buzz in the room, and everyone's super stoked. And it's your job to keep them excited.
Yeah, what would you say is different about Sled Island compared to maybe other music festivals you've played of a similar size?
Just selfishly, just knowing the area and
yeah.
and having my bicycle and being able to just hop from show to show for 5 days straight is just super fun. It's a holiday in itself, which is awesome. But besides that, I just think it's so interestingly curated and really well thought out, and the inclusion of like the guest curator artist has been really cool, and just as a way of just opening our eyes as audiences to other acts we'd had never heard of otherwise.
Yeah, it's a fantastic concept. This year it's Clipping, an American kind of hip hop group. And yeah, I had already interviewed Cartel Madras, and who are local, but they picked them. So it was a very, very cool, very unique vibe. So
yeah, that's super awesome.
Yeah, very cool. So let's focus on Sunglaciers again. So you just released a new album in March, correct?
Yeah, end of March. I think it was the 27th, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, Spiritual Content, our fourth one. Super excited. It's been really well received, and some people saying really nice things about it. So
yeah, obviously you're going to play a lot of that in the upcoming shows.
Yeah, we've actually started playing the entire record, kind of cover to cover, the last few shows. We don't do it in the same order that it is on the record, but that's a new thing for us as well, to have a release of 9 songs that we're excited to play all of them live. I'm not saying that past albums have had throwaways necessarily, but I think sometimes our compositions are a little ambitious, especially on the older records, and there's just sort of no way to recreate that live. So this one, we really kind of stripped down our approach, and we tried to keep it really consistent from song to song. And I think the result is we're super pumped on all of these songs and have really enjoyed playing them.
It is a great new album, and you can definitely see an evolution in your sound, and a great album. I love the Only Love video. I was like, that definitely just looks like a house in Calgary. Like, where was that shot?
Yeah, that's a house on the Mission Road. Yeah, just a friend of mine, Ethan Clark, is a film director, a filmmaker with his partner, Mason McConnell. And he had come to me a few months back about directing a video. And I thought that was super fun and a great way to do it. So yeah, we put out a call to some volunteers. We said, hey, we're gonna have a bunch of beer here, and we're gonna have a fire. Come on down and pretend the cameras aren't rolling. And so we just did that all in kind of one night and slapped it together pretty quick.
I think it turned out great. And again, I think if you're from Calgary and you see that, you're like, oh, that is such a Calgary scene, like an older house in one of those neighborhoods. But yeah, a real nod to it. I really thought it was quite creative.
Totally. That house gave me Northwest vibes, actually. I grew up in the Northwest. It really felt like that.
Yeah, I'm in Glenmorgan here in Calgary. I literally live in a 1954 bungalow, very similar, but
exactly.
Yeah, very cool. So you've got Sled coming up, but what other upcoming shows do you have in the near future?
We're doing a couple of festivals through the summer, nothing crazy because we're getting into some new recording pretty soon here. So we're playing Dandy Fest out in Inglewood in August. Some more festivals later, and then hopefully a little tour out east as well in fall.
Yeah, and you mentioned Dandy, and I'm great friends with Ben and the Dandy crew. But what other local, I always like to give shout outs to that, like what other local establishments like Dandy, or would you like to give a shout out to as great support for local music?
Well, I mean, there's the tried and true Palomino.
Oh, yeah.
Any small to mid-sized touring act that comes through plays there. Our sled show is there, which it often is, most of the time, I would say. So that's definitely a Calgary staple, and we and so many other bands, would be nothing without places like that. There's a lot of really great breweries around Calgary as well, and some of them are venues also. 88, I think. I'm not sure if they have a tent at Sled this year, but they do really wonderful things in and around and supporting shows and stuff like that. And love the Legion for those big sled bangers, and Dickens is awesome as well.
Yeah.
Ship and Anchor, where I work, was obviously a huge, important part of Calgary culture and a really important venue, not just for sled, but year round.
Oh, absolutely. And it's a good representation of that. I always thought the Ship, you can walk in a business suit or with a mohawk and covered in piercing tattoos, and you'll have a beer beside each other, and it's all happy and good. And with that, I mean, I think Sled, they've done a lot for diversity and inclusion. I guess, what are your thoughts on how Sled's really helped that locally?
Yeah, super important. Just seeing all the diversity, not just in genre, but types of people coming through and giving a voice to people who don't always have a voice, I think that's what art's all about. It's really a language of the oppressed. So no, super, super happy that Sled continues to make that a priority and feel privileged to be a part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So any artists or acts you're excited to see at this year's Sled?
The big one for me is Billy Woods. Another artist pick from Clipping. He was actually my number one most listened to artist last year, which is crazy. I didn't realize. Just really, really cool, experimental, atmospheric, jazzy hip hop. Really fun, really weird. A lot of songs with no beat at all in it, which I find really interesting and fun. So that's a big one. Snooper, I know, couldn't make it last year, so excited to see that show too. Besides that, I just like to build it the day of when I wake up. I check the schedule, see what I'm going to try to make it out to.
Well, that's the thing, and you touched on it earlier, and there's a big culture because it's in basically the downtown core of Calgary in general, and you can just bike or e-scooter place to place, and you're like, okay, where do you want to go? And you quickly look at the schedule, and you go to the Legion, or then you go to the Ship and Anchor, or you go to Dickens. There's so much great shows going on during it, so that's amazing.
It's just the most fun ever, and it might rain a couple of the days. Who cares? We're having a time.
Oh yeah, exactly. You bring your sunscreen and something in case it gets wet. You just figure it all out. Yeah. It's a lot of fun that way. Yeah, thanks. Is there anything you'd like to add or promote before we sign off?
No, not really. Just hoping folks can come down and see us on the Wednesday, the first proper night of Sled. We're actually supporting JRCG, who's a really, really interesting artist from the Pacific Northwest area, and actually I think my number 2 most listened to artist last year. So it's another great moment for me. No, just thanks for having me on, and really thankful for you guys and everything that you're doing to prop up the music community.
Yeah, we're trying. I mean, again, there's so much great talent in Alberta, and we're not just country music and the Calgary Stampede. There's so much more, but I really appreciate your time, and thanks for talking to me today.
Thank you very much, Darren. Anytime.
Yeah, I'll definitely be at your show, and I'll come introduce myself.
Hell yeah, dude.
Yeah, that'd be great. But I really appreciate your time. There's so much good to promote with Sled and all the other artists that we have here, including yourselves. And again, I'm excited to see you guys. And the new album's great. So keep up the good work.
Thanks so much, man. Means a lot. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks. That's it for today. All right, my friend. Cool. Take care. Yeah.
Thanks for taking
Yeah. Thanks, man. That was Evan Resnik of Sunglaciers, one of Calgary's most innovative and boundary-pushing musical exports. A huge thank you to Evan for joining us today and sharing his thoughts on creativity, experimentation, touring, and the importance of festivals like Sled Island in supporting artists who aren't afraid to challenge expectations and carve out their own unique path. If you haven't yet explored their music, be sure to check out their latest album, Spiritual Content, along with their previous releases, Foreign Bodies, Subterranea, and Regular Nature. Whether you're a fan of post-punk, psychedelic rock, new wave, or simply music that refuses to stand still, Sunglaciers are a band worth spending time with. This interview is part of our ongoing Sled Island series. Be sure to listen to our feature episode, The Sonic Collective Presents Sled Island, the festival that changed Calgary music, as well as our other artist interviews from this year's festival. And don't forget, we'll be releasing a special post-festival recap episode where we'll reflect on Sled Island, share stories from artists and attendees, and explore why this festival continues to be one of the most important cultural events in Calgary and one of Canada's true independent music treasures. Until next time, keep discovering, keep listening, and keep supporting independent music. I'm Darren Scott, and this has been the Sonic Collective. Thanks for listening.
People keep saying that all things will pass. The less I believe it, the longer it lasts. 'Cause I feel like I'm missing a piece that I need.
Thanks for listening to the Sonic Collective. If you enjoyed this episode, help us keep great music alive by subscribing, leaving a review, and sharing the show with a fellow music fan. Be sure to explore a growing catalog of album reviews, artist interviews, festival coverage, and music discoveries from across Canada and beyond. The theme music for the Sonic Collective is Dust by Léger Gantique from Calgary. Our thanks to the band for letting us use and feature their music. Be sure to check them out. Until next time, keep listening, keep discovering, and keep the conversation going. This is the Sonic Collective signing off.